Hello everybody and welcome to Storm Reads, and today I'm going to be doing a wrap up for my retro romance readathon. And I would like to say thank you to everybody who participated in the retro romance readathon, because honestly I really didn't think I would have that many people want to do it with me. It was really just a way to try to read some of the books I have on my shelf and things. And whenever people kept signing up and oh, I want to do it, I was like, oh, that's cool. And it was a lot of fun seeing everybody's reads, whether it was Instagram or the ones that joined my Discord, or any other way that I seen what they were reading. Maybe they made their own videos or something like that. It was just really fun to see what people were going to read and what they read. And I did really well. I read 20 books in February, and 10 of those were from my retro romance readathon. So I thought that was super cool. I didn't think I could get that many done because I did have all the other books that I was going to be reading, but I did, and it went really well. There was only one book that was one book that was a dud, and one book was kind of but other than that, I really enjoyed pretty much everything that I read. So that was a bonus and super cool. So I thought I would just do my wrap up just featuring my retro romance readathon. I do have weekly reading vlogs if you want to see all of the books that I read in February, because they should be featured on there. But I just wanted to do my wrap up featuring my retros, and so that's what I'm going to do. And so the first one I'm going to talk about is Raven's Vow by Gail Wilson. And this one it's a historical romance from Harlequin. Yeah, it's Harlequin historical romance. It's from 1997. And this was the first one I started out with, and I really enjoyed it. I give it 4 stars. This one was definitely a marriage of convenience trope and everything. The main character, John Raven, needed a wife, and whenever he met, I think it's Catherine, Catherine, on just on the sidewalk or whatever, he was like, that's the one that I want to marry. The only thing is her father is called the Devil Duke for a reason. He's not a very nice guy. And they're I think it was his lawyer friend or whatever's you need to try for somebody else. But no, he wanted this one, and he came up with a way to get her with the marriage of convenience type thing. And so yeah, so it was really good. I enjoyed it. I think I give this one 4 stars. Then I read Years by Lavelle Spencer, and I absolutely love this one. It was amazing. It had such a slow burn romance, but at the same time, it really didn't bother me that it was slow. It was kind of, although sometimes I did want to smack Teddy upside the head, but and it was pretty, and it's an age gap romance, which was one of the reasons it had such a slow burn in it. And it was about Leanna, I can't remember exactly how you say her name, but she is fresh out of school and going to be a teacher. It's in the year, is it 1917, and she's going to Alamo, I think it's Alamo, North Dakota, to become a teacher for the first time. And Teddy is supposed to be picking up the teacher, and he's thinking the teacher's going to be a guy. And it ends up being her. And he's like, no, I'm not going to have no lady in my house and stuff, because he's the one that usually lets the teacher stay at his house. At his house is his mother and him, and then his teen son. And his son is actually only a few years younger than Leanna, and so that was kind of funny because she ends up falling for the man who's 34, I think it is, or something like that, when there's a young man that's just as cute, that's almost her age, because she was 18, I think, or 19, somewhere around there. And so yeah, and yeah, it was just really cute. I really liked her writing style. It just flowed really well for being a really thick book. I listened to the audiobook on this one, and I don't know, it just kind of just went through, and I didn't even feel like I was reading that long of a book. It only took me a couple of days to finish this one. And so I gave this one 5 stars. It was just really, really good. And I would highly recommend people reading this one. And then I read, and I forgot to say, and this one was from 1986. Then I read Run from the Wind by Rebecca Stratton, and this was a Harlequin romance number 1839, and it's from 1974. And one thing I learned with these Harlequin romances from the early years is you get to travel all over the place with these. This one is set in France. So I kind of felt like I was traveling with my retro romances this year. So that was kind of fun. And this one is also an age gap romance, which I also learned that some of these earlier Harlequins do that a lot. A lot of them are, it seems like, well, the ones that I read anyway were age gap, and they were hate to love. And there's also not a lot of romance going on, and so that was kind of strange. But I did enjoy this one. It is about Laura, who she really loved her uncle, and he would always talk about his time in this small town in France. And she lives in England, and so she decided to take a vacation to that small town and kind of see what it was like and everything. But when she mentions her uncle, people in the town are not too happy about it. So when she finds out that people aren't real, they don't like her uncle or whatever, she just doesn't understand. So she is deciding she's going to try to prove that her uncle isn't what they think he is. And he's dead now, so she couldn't ask him, but she's pretty sure that, he just wouldn't have done what he said, what everybody's saying that, about him. And this guy here particularly doesn't want her looking around, asking questions, because of what happened. It has to do with his family and his mother. And his mother absolutely hated her uncle because of what happened. He just doesn't want to see her upset. And so the thing of this one is she spends most of her time with his younger brother, Simon. And so you would think the romance would be between her and Simon, but the romance is between her and Jean-Pierre, and they're not even together, but like maybe 5 times during the whole book. So I always thought that was kind of weird that, she spends all this time with the one guy, but ends up with the other guy. It's just weird. But I did enjoy it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one I have is Cameron of Gore by Jean S. McLeod. And this one is from the Harlequin Classic Library, because the contents of this book is from 1952, but this is a 1980s edition. And you can definitely has this 1950s kind of vibe to it, because there just wasn't... I thought the 70s didn't have a lot of romantic notions. This one has none at all. It was just really weird. Like, they hardly ever talk to each other, and then all of a sudden they're gonna get like married, and it was like, what? Wait a second. What just transpired here? I have no clue. But it is about Fiona, who moves with her father and her younger brother to the Scottish Highlands because her father has bought some property there. He is from there, and Tremor is where he grew up, where his father grew up. But something happened, I can't remember exactly, but it has to do with the Camerons. And so he hates the Camerons because they had taken over their property at one point in time. And now he has managed to get it back, except for this little section called Gore, and which is where Ian Cameron lives. And he's just trying to be a sheep farmer. And Fiona falls for Ian. And I'm going to say falls for, but I don't ever have that feeling of romance or falling for. It was, they talked a few times. He was even kind of mean to her a couple of times. And then all of a sudden they're going to get married. So it was kind of weird. But so because of that, I gave this one 3 stars because it just felt kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it's just strange. Then I have The Primrose Path by Barbara Metzger, and I loved this one. This is my other 5-star read of the month, and it was so fun. And if you are a fan of Regency type romances and dogs, you just need to read this one. You need to. You need to. Because it had so much stuff to do with dogs and laugh out loud moments that had to do with dogs. And they're like these scrappy dogs that um, the reason the lady has them is because nobody else wants them, and so it was just funny. But anyway, Viscount Noel wants his late aunt's property. It used to be part of his property, but his father, I think it was his father or his grandfather, one of the two, gave the property to his aunt so that she would have a place to stay, because I guess the one's wife and her sister didn't get along, and so they like shove her over there so she can just have her own little section. Well, then she dies, and he figures that the property would go back to them, but no, she has willed the property to is it Anna? I can never remember. Angelina, yeah, to Angelina, who was her companion, and the will says that she is allowed to stay there at Primrose House and everything, and she's going to take care of all the dogs. And she can stay there as long as there's dogs there. So if the dogs die or if they are adopted out, then and only then will she be able to like move on if she wants or whatever. Well, Viscount Noel really needs this house because he has promised it to like a foreign person, because he's trying to get into government and he's kind of like being a spy for like the government, and he thought he was going to have this house, and so he's already told like his bosses and stuff that have this house, and then he finds out that he doesn't have the house, and so he tries his best to get her out of there, and then of course that's going to backfire on him. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I laughed so much reading this book. And this one is from 1997. Then I read another Lavelle Spencer novel, Morning Glory, and I really like this one too. It's from 1989, and this one wasn't quite as fun as Years, but it also didn't get me quite as much as Years. There was a little bit of a sad spot, but it wasn't quite as bad. But I really did like the romance between Will and Ellie. Ellie is what everybody called her, crazy Ellie Dinsmore, because of her upbringing, and she married the first guy that ever like even took an interest in her, and he ends up dying because of an accident that had to do with bees, and she's left with 2 kids and one on the way. So she puts an ad in the paper that she's looking for a husband. So Will, who is definitely down on his luck because he's gotten out of prison and he's starving and nobody wants to give him a job, sees the ad and decides, he'll go check her out and see, at least he'd have a place to live, have, some meals to eat and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, so it's the romance between the two of them, because he stays there at first just in her barn so she can kind of get to know him to decide if she wants to marry him and things like that. And yeah, it was just really sweet. And this one takes place during when the Americans go into World War II, and so it does have a part there where he has to go and do that, which was a little sad because of some things that happened there and stuff. But yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it. I give it 4 stars. Then I have Never Say Die by Tess Gerritsen, which is a Harlequin intrigue. It's number 181. It's from 1992. And this one, it was pretty good. I give it 4 stars. It's the first time that I've tried Tess Gerritsen, which I know she does the Rizzolian Isle, so now I'm really curious about that. And this one is about Willie Maitland, and she's wanting to find out what happened to her father, who supposedly died in a plane crash over in Vietnam. And She just doesn't know if he did die or not. And her mother's sick and she wants to know for sure. So she goes to figure it out, where she gets kind of given the runaround. And then there's some people that are trying to shoot her. And so this guy here, whose name is Guy, ends up trying to protect her and everything. And so, yeah, it was really good. 4 stars. My only dud, I think, real dud of the month was this one. It was Hidden Rapture by Romola Lane. Romolia Lane? Or something like that. I give this one about like 2 stars, I would say. It just wasn't that good. It started out, the premise started out really good, and then it kind of went downhill. But I did a big kind of rant on my last reading vlog for that, so if you want to know like exactly what I felt about this one, you can go and check that one out. But yeah, it's about a girl who goes in the place of her friend to this guy Robert to see, because he's sick and he's dying, and they've been writing letters back and forth. But she has told her that, or told the guy that her name was Vivian, and sent her picture. So her friend Lucy talks her into going and everything. And so, yeah, and then a lot of things happen. And she falls for the older brother, not the guy that she was supposed to be going over there for. So, yeah, but there were some other issues in it that, yeah, I didn't like it. Oh, and this was, I forgot to say, it's a Harlequin romance, and it's number 2229, in case you want to know. And it was from 1979. And then I read To Love a Dark Lord by Anne Stewart. And this one was pretty chunky, and I had this one on audiobook as well. And this one I had mixed feelings about, and I've settled on 3.5 stars, but I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads because I didn't think it deserved 3 stars, though I'm not quite sure it deserved 4 stars, which is why it was, like, in my own opinion, 3.5 stars. I really wish Goodreads would let you do half stars. But yeah, this one was from 1994, and it's a historical romance, and it's got the very brooding kind of, had a Beauty and the Beast kind of feel to me, and he doesn't think that he deserves any kind of love or anything, and he's just kind of a jerk in this book. But she pretty much falls for him right off the bat because he rescues her a few times and things like that. But she can kind of take care of herself, but she just gets herself into some sticky situations because she's so pretty. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. And the last book that I read was Nora Roberts' Hidden Star, and it's the first book in the Stars of Mithra. It's from 1997, and this one wasn't too bad, but it was kind of cheesy. It's a Silhouette Intimate Moments, number 811, and it had the insta-love kind of trope, and I don't know if maybe that was like a big trope for like back in like maybe the 80s, 90s or something. I don't know. I haven't really read a lot of like Harlequins from then to really know if that is like a thing, but yeah, it was, I mean, this one was trying to be kind of like, I kind of got it was like, because he's a private investigator, so kind of like one of those like noir type where, you know, the guy is like kind of like Sam Spade, where he walked, the lady walks into the office and she needs help, and he's like, oh, she's so pretty, and look at this, you know, dame kind of thing. I mean, it even says the dame with the diamonds, so yeah, you could tell since he was a PI that was kind of what it was kind of going for a little bit. But yeah, as soon as she walked into the office, he was like instantly in love, or as I would say it, lust, because I don't really believe in love at first sight. So, but you know, it is what it is. But she has amnesia and she doesn't remember who she is, and he's going to help her figure out who she is, and falls in love with her as it goes. So there's that. It was okay. I give it 3 stars. Like I said, it was a little cheesy, but I did finish it because I know in my my reading vlog, if you watched it, I said I didn't know if I was going to get it fit it in. But I kind of like signed up for the free 30-day trial for audiobook.com because I could get this book on audiobook, or I probably wouldn't have finished it. But I wanted to round out my retro romances with 10 books. I didn't want to leave it at 9. I wanted a good even number, and so I did that so that I could finish this one up, as it was only like 6 hours on audiobook. But yeah, this is, I think, only maybe my second or third Nora Roberts. I really haven't read much from her. She's so popular. You would think I've read more, but I haven't. But I do have more, and I do have the other 2 books in this trilogy. And so I probably will get to them sometime this year, because now that I've started the trilogy, I'm really curious to see where it's going to go, cheesy or not, because it does involve these diamonds, and like it has, there's 2 other diamonds that are floating around there that she sent to her friends, and so it's going to be the romance that has to do with their friends and these bad guys that are chasing after them trying to get the diamond. So I am kind of curious to see how that goes. But yeah, but 3 stars. Yeah, so that's all of the romances I read for the retro romance. I had a blast doing this. I have read 10 books off of my shelves. These are some books that I've been on a romance kick, buying these older romances, and I'm like, I need to read some of my own romances that I have. And so I'm glad I can say that I got 10 off of there, and I can decide now which of these I'm going to keep, which I know 2 of them that I'm going to keep, and then some of the other ones I may end up taking to the used bookstore and stuff like that, and finding other books to get. But yeah, so it's kind of fun to cull my actual stacks and read my own books. It was kind of nice. So yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.